Ignition sequence starts. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hey everybody, this is the Digital Asset Investor, and I wanted to show you this about gold before we get going. Turkey's annual inflation rate is expected to rise to nearly 70% in April. In February, the people of Turkey were encouraged to convert their gold holdings into liras. When you are encouraged to sell your gold, you should buy more. I 1000% agree. Now, one thing that we've been talking about a lot over the course of the last couple of years on this channel is how we're of course converting into a digital economy. Well, a big part of that is going to be CBDCs. Well, listen to this clip right here because I think these guys are over the target. Listen to this.
Interesting. Okay. You know what I'm just thinking? Let's say you're right. Let's say you've got the major central banks creating central bank digital currencies backed by gold. What's that going to do to the price of gold?
Well, the answer is obvious. That would be highly supportive of gold.
Okay.
And the reason being is because
How supportive, Gary?
Well, if you're going to back a currency with gold, that means you're going to require more gold in the central bank of that country. If you purchase more gold, supply and demand. If the demand becomes higher and the supply remains constant, what happens to price? It goes up.
Okay.
All right, just wanted you to hear that clip and remind you at the very top of the description of this video, my sponsor, I'm buying gold on my Glint card in my Glint account just about every week. And it gives me an option that, in my opinion, everybody should give themselves, which is I have this account that's got my gold in it. I have this card. It's a MasterCard debit card, and I can either spend US dollars off of that card, or I can convert it to gold on the card and spend the gold. And it literally tells me how many grams of gold I'm spending when I spend the card. It's an amazing thing. It provides an option for me that I've never had before. This is like earth-shattering stuff. And so it's one of the things I'm more excited about. It's what led me to asking them if they would be a sponsor, and it's awesome. I encourage you to check it out. Okay, and the link's in the top of the description. Now, there's two things that I want to make sure we drive home before I go in. This video pissed me off just putting it together, and it's going to piss you off, and it should. Okay. But there's a couple of things that are things you need to really let sink in that we don't reinforce enough on this channel. Here's the first one, okay? And John Deaton, he says, can you read between the lines? Hinman and the SEC were saying one thing publicly, but behind closed doors, it was an interesting welcome that we got privately. Now, what this is in reference to, you might remember the Lowell Ness is Andreessen Horowitz crypto attorney, is what he said himself. And in the video, this is what he said when he was describing how Jay Clayton went over to Andreessen Horowitz, and then they eventually had a meeting with the SEC. He adds, it was an interesting dichotomy between their public-facing, incredibly, I like this word, vituperative statements that they were making and this interesting welcome that we got privately. In other words, the SEC was saying one thing to all of us publicly, but behind closed doors, they're meeting with Andreessen Horowitz, Union Square Ventures, Perkins Coie, Cooley, freaking McDermott, Will and Emery, and am I missing anybody? I don't think and a couple of other organizations. Well, anyway, those were the core. And so they're telling all of us one thing, but behind closed doors, they're telling them they're real receptive and they're working with them in secret meetings that they tried to keep secret. That's the first thing I want you to remind you of. The second, and the one that ought to piss you off more than anything, is that if you're listening to my voice, all of you out there listening, you either own XRP now, or you've thought about it, or you're just interested in hearing the drama. Who knows? Or but a lot of you owned it for the 8 years that the SEC and Jay Clayton said nothing to you to warn you. They say all they care about is protecting investors. Jay Clayton said it. Gary Gensler said it. All of them at the SEC. That's all they said. Oh, we want to protecting investors is our core mission. Well, then why for 8 years did they not say one thing to let XRP investors know that they were going to file a freaking lawsuit, or even that they were investigating Ripple? Never said a word to these people that they claim they wanted to protect. Okay? Not only that, but this quote right here. This is a quote from a letter from a former SEC commissioner, Joseph Grunfest, to Jay Clayton when he found out Jay Clayton was going to drop the lawsuit on Ripple. He said, but simply initiating the action will impose substantial harm on innocent XRP holders of XRP, regardless of the ultimate resolution. Upon learning of the proceeding, intermediaries will cease transacting in XRP because of the associated legal risks. And after being sent this letter, Jay Clayton sued Ripple anyway and didn't even have the courage to stay there and face the fire himself. What does he do instead? Because it's relevant to this video. What does he do instead? He leaves like a coward and then eventually ends up as one of the advisors to Apollo Global. Don't forget that one, because here it comes. Now, this is from Stefan Huber this morning. You won't believe what I just found. JP Morgan, Alibaba, Swift partnered in 2017 to revolutionize cross-border payments with Ethereum. And which law firm represents both? That's right, Simpson Thacher. That's the tweet. Oh yes, before I forget, boom. We thank JP Morgan for their collaboration in making this happen for us seamlessly. The results, instant cross-border payment thanks to visibility and certainty provided by Swift GPI. By the strong collaboration between Alibaba.com, JP Morgan, and Swift. Oliver Brinkwin, head of corporate banking, Asia Pacific, JP Morgan. Simpson Thacher to rake in $16 million for Alibaba's IPO. And we know from Stefan Huber's tweets that both Jay Clayton and Bill Hinman worked on the Alibaba IPO. And I believe they tried to work on an acquisition of MoneyGram for Alibaba, which was rejected by the U.S., which opened the door for Ripple getting the partnership with MoneyGram. We're not done yet. John Deaton says about this tweet, name the company posing the biggest threat to JP Morgan, Alibaba, and Swift related to cross-border payments. Name the crypto being utilized and promoted for cross-border payments. Name the company who acquired JPM's Quorum and JPM Coin. Now name the two law firms associated with all of the above. All right. So I said it's all becoming clear now, because on the same day that Stefan Huber tweeted that tweet, this announcement came out. Investment giant Apollo Global, where Jay Clayton went, one of the places where he's an advisor after having left the SEC, has made a major push into crypto with the hire of former JP Morgan exec Christine Moy. She was the one that ran the blockchain over at JP Morgan. Amber Baldette handed it off to her, is the way I understood it. JP Morgan Quorum, remember the same Quorum that was bought by Consensus, Joseph Lubin, to be its first head of digital asset strategy. So she now works at the company where Jay Clayton went to be an advisor. And I said, now this is another side note. I said, write it down. They know something, because here it says Apollo's digital asset play new strategy, unlikely to invest in Bitcoin. So go ahead and write it down that they know something that, once again, the public's not going to know. Okay. Now, then I said, it's a nice day for a retweet of this. She just joined Apollo Global with Jay Clayton. Joseph Lubin's on stage. That's her right there while she's at JP Morgan. Listen up.
So our company Consensus has been very prominent since the start of the Ethereum ecosystem. I can attest that JP Morgan was there right from the start, before public mainnet was even launched.
We won't go into the disguised whales right now, but the point is, JP Morgan, you put two and two together. JP Morgan was there before the launch of the blockchain. We also know that Andreessen Horowitz was there before it launched, because I remember a clip where one of the people from Andreessen Horowitz said that they were at Bitcoin Miami where Vitalik Buterin announced the fundraiser that was going to happen. Okay, so Andreessen Horowitz was there. And I believe, don't quote me, but I believe Union Square Ventures was also there early on like that. And we still don't know who the disguised whales are that purchased Ethereum in the ICO. But we do know that JP Morgan was there from the very beginning. And here's Jay Clayton, former SEC Chief Clayton, to chair investment giant Apollo. Then we've got this. It reminded me of this, which is always worth playing again. We also have our buddy Gary Gensler, who said this.
Jamie Dimon, so let's bring it back to Jamie and JP Morgan. What do you think is going to be the thing that they will have to change the most or lose market share and somebody else is going to do better, faster, serve their clients better than JP Morgan or Goldman Sachs?
You can just hear the bankers panicking right now.
But what
just
what
feel
line,
the panic in their voices.
What's the line
but here's
of business that is most
well. Here's what always happens. The first thing that happens is they try to go, oh, it's nothing, and they did that. I mean, that's with every new industry, every new technology comes along. The powers that be, the incumbents, the status quo, all say it's nothing. Don't ignore the man behind the curtain. This is nothing. And then all of a sudden it's too big to get in there. They're going, oh my God, I got to face this thing. And then they all line up and they wrap their arms together and they say, we're not letting this happen. And then it keeps going. And then they say, okay, well, let's sue them. Or let's go get the government.
There's another thing they do. They adopt the technology. I think.
So you hear Gary covering for his buddies at JP Morgan and
That's
Goldman
at the
Sachs?
end.
They will adopt
No,
this technology.
no, this is the last thing they do. No,
Yeah, it's like
it's
the
after.
seven
It's
stages
after.
of G, find
Right.
out.
It's after the press planning. They plant the press stories. They put out lawsuits.
Oh, they put out lawsuits? You know what that reminded me of is this clip of Nancy Wotos.
To me, the biggest threat to this industry is third-party plaintiffs. The Ripple case is something that, you really have to watch.
She's not talking about the SEC suing Ripple. She's talking about someone else suing Ripple, because remember, Ripple got sued by several different people before the SEC sued Ripple.
The lead plaintiff in that bought $2,000 worth of the tokens, held it for 10 days, and had a $200 loss. And he's the lead plaintiff on a multi-billion-dollar class action. And if that case is successful, I mean, it is the death knell to many, many token companies.
Now let's go back to what Tim Draper says here.
Or let's go get the government.
There's another thing they do. They adopt the technology.
Let's skip Gary.
At the
He's
end.
full of
No,
crap.
this is the last thing they do. No,
Yeah, it's like
it's
the
after.
seven
It's
stages of
after.
G, find
Right.
out.
It's after the press planning. They plant this.
Now, think about how many press. I would say press planning, and also sending out quote crypto pundits to give a thumbs down and scratch their head like they don't understand what XRP is or why it would go up. That would go under my category of press planning.
Stories. They put out lawsuits. They create as much of a fuss as possible. They try to get their government friends involved. And then they go, oh, God, this thing's happened.
Right. Oh, God, this thing's happening. You know what I think? I think that once they saw what the XRP community was doing and what people in the XRP Twitter had started to uncover, I believe that's when they finally started scratching their head and then, oh God, this thing's going to happen. I think maybe that was the point at which they saw that stage. And then it reminded me of this video too that I had put together. And look at the dates here. This is 3/12/2018, Bloomberg Markets on Swift. That's Brad Garlinghouse in this interview. And then Hinman gives the speech on June 14th. Then August 28th, 2020, Joseph Lubin is bragging about JP Morgan Quorum acquisition of Swift, and then 12/22/20 Jay Clayton sues Ripple. Let's fast forward to those two parts.
The publicly announced applications are their interbank information network, which has north of 400 financial institutions around the world. And it's essentially a messaging layer, similar to what Swift does. JP Morgan, I believe, has around 4,000 financial institutions in their correspondent banking network. So one could imagine that all of those organizations and perhaps more will eventually end up on IIN. So Consensus is supporting that network. And Consensus is also supporting JPM Coin, which is a stable coin solution. So
what you're looking at right there, this was the World Economic Forum document, and I don't remember if I put something else on the end. I just think I just left that up. Okay, and then there was this I just wanted to remind everybody of. This was back in 2017, December 7th. Brad Garlinghouse was at a conference, and he said there were 15 senior executives from JP Morgan in Ripple's office this afternoon. So if I was Ripple, I'd be thinking back or looking back at my notes from that meeting to see what in the hell were they there for. Then Linda P. Jones makes a good point. Because JP Morgan was desperate to save itself and own and control the technology, XRPL is decentralized and they hate it. They wanted to create their own version to keep the monopoly. That is the Federal Reserve going. This person says they're not getting away with this. We are one leak away. My heart feels the 68 emails will be leaked. Someone will want immunity from this greatest financial corruption, in my opinion. We are not going away. All we've ever asked for is a level playing field, folks. How freaking hard can it really be? Now, finally, if you have not gone through John Deaton's thread, I retweeted it. You can find it in my thread this morning. How Web3 and the Ether Free Pass was born. Recently, Jack Dorsey was blocked by Mark Andreessen over Jack's observation regarding the inherent interests of VCs related to Web3. What is Web3? Web3, much like other buzzwords you hear, Bitcoin, NFTs, etc., is based on blockchain technology. If you go through this thread right here, you will finally have it all together in your mind. Now, I think it's entirely appropriate to play this video from Stefan Huber. The SEC also put Madoff on an advisory committee after initial inconclusive investigation. Madoff has also praised the SEC. Remember the Brooklyn Project after the Dow report? Remember how Lubin praised the SEC? Remember? Let's do a little play of this just so you can remember, because folks, I remember it like it was yesterday. That guy, I can't remember his name. I think they say it in this report. The guy that guy right there that was the whistleblower of Bernie Madoff, he said that the big players on Wall Street, they knew. Listen to this.
In 2000, Harry Markopoulos took his findings to the Securities and Exchange Commission, otherwise known as the SEC. But Harry didn't have any hard evidence against Madoff. It was just a theory and some red flags. Therefore, an investigation wasn't opened. But Harry wasn't the only one who was suspicious over Madoff. When asked about it several years later, he confirmed that hundreds of people within Wall Street had been suspicious. But when asked why none of them ever reported anything, he responded, quote, "People in glass houses don't throw stones." By 2005, Markopoulos had uncovered many more red flags surrounding Madoff, and the SEC eventually opened an investigation in 2006. But Madoff had ties with the SEC, and on occasion was even called to provide advice. Madoff also knew how to get around the auditors. Testimony from former staff describe how they cooled down falsified documents in the fridge so that auditors wouldn't notice that they had been freshly printed. The investigation was closed 11 months later due to a lack of evidence. And soon after, Madoff audaciously praised the SEC, saying, quote, "In today's regulatory environment, it's virtually impossible to violate the rules."
Many people couldn't believe his crimes had gone undetected for so long, and that astonishment, it turned to anger when it was revealed that one man uncovered the Ponzi scheme, even went to the Securities and Exchange Commission 5 times to try and expose it.
I'm the digital asset investor. I'm not an investment advisor. This is for entertainment purposes only. Please subscribe, hit the like button, and tell your friends and family that I'm a man on fire. And all we ever wanted was a level playing field, and we don't go away